Welcome to We Need to Talk, the podcast that features a series of conversations aimed at shedding light on issues surrounding women. I am your host, Glenneva Hodge, and this is a space where women can discuss the issues we've been forced to barely whisper. As women, we know we need to talk means things are at a point where they must be addressed now. So join us as we tackle conversations that are necessary, even if they make you slightly uncomfortable. Welcome back to another episode of We Need to Talk. I am your host, Glenneva Hodge, and with me today is my guest co-host, Shamika Hodge, who will be joining us periodically for special editions of We Need to Talk titled Girl Talk. I am so pleased to have her with me here today and looking forward to future episodes with her. And on Girl Talk, we are going to be doing a wrap-up of each month's topic. And so we're going to be speaking today about investing in women, our take, our view, and our opinion on this topic, investing in women, accelerating progress, what that means to each of us. And we're also going to give you, the listeners, an overview of what you can expect to hear here on We Need to Talk. So Shamika, welcome. And to our listeners, go grab your drinks, grab your snacks, settle in, because we need to talk. Shamika.
Hi, and thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to talk about this topic. You know, this is our month. This is Women's Week. You know, we celebrate all things women. And I'm excited to get into the topics that we are going to move into as We Need to Talk progresses. So I'm just ready, excited to get into it and share with the audience.
Excellent. And so I think for our listeners, this is going to be a little bit of an insight into not just Girls Talk. And Girls Talk really came about because it's about moving the conversations from the WhatsApp chats. So
That's true.
To the podcast, because I can think whenever I think of a group of girls and a group of women, there's always a girls chat. There's always a WhatsApp chat where, you know, we talk about the things that we are going to be talking about here on We Need to Talk. So for me, it's very exciting to have you join me, and I look forward to our monthly wrap-ups on various topics. You know, I'm certain we will have some other persons join us as well once we continue with these special episodes of Girl Talk.
Yes. So, you know, I feel that it's important that we move these conversations from the chats
because
into real time, real life, so that, you know, it doesn't become a situation where it's only shared amongst a small group, but more women in general, in the public, regionally, or globally, can understand that you're not alone in the issues that you face. And we can learn as well, because people will share their experiences, you know, the tidbits they've learned on how to manage, how to navigate, you know, this issue, this journey we call life for women.
Yes.
So I believe it's very important to have that moving.
Yes.
You know,
so
moving
I think for me, one of the motivating factors for doing this podcast really was to create a space, a safe space, where women can speak about these issues openly, that we have been whispering, that we have been, because I'm not going to say that we haven't been having some of these conversations. It's where we've been having them and how we've been having them.
Right.
And so I felt it important that we move the conversations to a space where we can be educated, we can be enlightened. So going forward, as we explore various topics and topics that affect us as women, topics that are of interest to us as women. Having not just the girl talk episodes, but also making sure that there are bolstered by experts.
Right.
And
right,
so that
right.
it is educational, because one of the
Right.
things that I'm really, really strong on is having informed conversations. I think we are definitely in an age where, you know, and this is not so against any body, but we've gotten to a point where anybody can say just anything. And it's very difficult to wade through a lot of the noise and to try to figure out what is factual, what is not, where do I go, where do I get solid information that I can make an informed decision.
And you know, it's important that you said that, because access to social media has provided an opportunity for people to say whatever they feel. And you have these days where people will say after they've said something on social media that it's not that serious. I've just said that. That's not truly how I feel, but I've just said that to get a reaction. And and sometimes that causes more confusion, because if a person is going through a particular issue or feeling a particular way, and they see certain posts, it negatively impacts them. And on the other side of that post, behind the screen, the person has no genuine intention to hurt, no genuine intention to move the conversation along either. You know, it's just to get a response.
Yes.
You know, and so we have to ensure that we put genuine information, like you say, out there for persons that truly need the information, and we create spaces that are trusted. And I feel like this podcast is something important in terms of providing a space where genuine information can be accessed to impact women and support them in navigating the issues that we go through. You know, I feel a lot of issues aren't new.
No.
Hundreds of years old.
These issues have been around. A lot of them have been around for as long as we as women have been around.
Right. And I feel sharing of information, removing the stigma attached, the shame attached to sharing, and having a more understanding and receptive community makes it easier to pass that knowledge along to generations. And it's important for podcasts such as these to make it, you know, okay, make it more comfortable, make women more comfortable with sharing, and, you know, pass on that information.
That is very important. And one of the things that I really want to impress upon our listeners, and this is especially for our local Anguillian or Anguilla in the diaspora listeners, is that I know some of you know me. I know some of you know me from another show that I do. And I think it's also important that people recognize this is not that show. This is not the same. It's not the same format. Yes, you may be seeing it in the same medium that you see the other one. But this show really is about us creating that safe space. Now, Shamika, I know we have been speaking about this podcast for quite some time. This is not new. People are now seeing the fruits of our labor for
of our discussions
for quite some time.
Yeah.
And one of the things when we were thinking about the name of this podcast,
yes,
you know, a lot of persons, when they hear we need to talk, it gives certain emotions. There are certain emotions attached to that phrase. You know, since the first episode aired.
Shivers.
Since the first episode aired, I've you know, I remember sliding up next to somebody and just looking at it, and the person goes, I hope you ain't here to tell me we need to talk, you know. You know, because it does does produce a certain reaction. And
yes, that's
in
true.
our discussions, you've had a really good take on why you felt this name was a really good name for us to move forward with.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because, and as you explained earlier, when people hear we need to talk, you know, when you say to, you know, your significant other, we need to talk, it's, you know, what have I done? What's going on? You know, and it brings concern, it brings fear, it sends a shiver down a person's spine when they hear that word. And I feel that it stems from a cultural situation where we have a difficulty. We feel as if communicating is a problem, and communicating might signify some sort of vulnerability, some sort of weakness, right? And I think it's important that we change the view of that phrase, we need to talk. We need to make people more comfortable with needing to talk. And we need to make women feel comfortable with bridging some of those conversations, coming forward out of the group chats to the public and saying, these are things we suffer with. These are things we want addressed for us to be able to make progress, right? And we need the community in general, in Anguilla and globally, to want to have those conversations, to feel comfortable having those conversations about women, to not have stigma attached to certain discussions, to not have certain discussions be taboo, you know? And so it's important to have this, this name, the title, as we need to talk, so that we can, as we progress and we have these discussions and we move forward with these topics, we see those views, those fears just fall away, you know?
Yeah, definitely in changing the narrative
surrounding
and the negative connotation surrounding
definitely
our need to talk, because we do have a need to talk. And when we don't talk, we tend to have a lot more problems arise. And I've said this time and time again, a lot of the issues that we face as women, our moms and our grandmas and our great grandmas, for those of us who are blessed enough to know them, I ain't never hear them sit down and talk about certain things. And I'm like, why are we in a position having to struggle now? Because I know that they did. And so for me, especially as a mother, looking forward, I want to be able to have these conversations so that my daughter isn't struggling and our daughters aren't struggling with the issues that really we would not struggle with if we were to actually just talk about them.
And I mean, I completely agree with you, because, and it's more than not, you know, understanding that these things happen. It's also being able to sidestep some of the pitfalls that come along, because some of these things, that when you face them, they create, you know, emotional issues. It may create setbacks in terms of moving forward, career-wise, personal development, because there are some traumas associated, you know, with some of these issues. And you want to help another individual, another young woman, your daughter, you know, even a friend, to have to avoid that hurt, to avoid that trauma. And that may give them a couple extra steps ahead, you know, without that setback. They may reach that goal a bit faster, a bit quicker than you would have had you not encountered that particular dilemma. So I feel it's needed. And I wanted to, you know, ask you to discuss our, you know, let's have a conversation about some of the topics that you envision that you're going to discuss in time coming, more episodes as episodes move along.
Yeah. So I know definitely as we look forward this month, even before we look forward this month, we are going to be focusing on investing in women and accelerating progress and what exactly that means. I'm looking forward to some of our next few guests, you know, on our debut episode. We were blessed to have the Honorable Minister of Social Development and Education here in Anguilla, Miss Deanne Kentish Rogers, join us, and that was a very insightful conversation. If you missed it, please go back and watch. It is still available. I think I look forward to having more conversations this month with some very interesting women on that topic. I am really excited about the lineup of our guests for the remainder of this month. But as I look ahead, I know I'm looking forward definitely to May, when we're going to be speaking about mental health. We're working on a really good lineup of guests coming in. And then I think I am really excited about future episodes of Gold Talk because it is going to be an opportunity for us to sort of decompress and go back over some of the information that we gathered and how we can kind of use that in our everyday lives and how we can apply the information from those persons who are experts in the field. Outside of that, somewhere along the line, whether it's season 1, season 2, we hope to be here for a long time. We do have a really great lineup of topics and episodes that we are looking forward to. I know some persons, again, I put this out there simply because I want persons to know that this is a safe space. And it is a space of no judgment, and it is going to be uncensored. So we are going to be getting into some topics that some may consider taboo, but I think they are absolutely necessary. So we are going to get into some sex talk. Let's just be frank. We're going to get into talks about women's health and reproduction and whether it is fertility issues. I am really looking forward to getting into some conversations about access to health and healthcare and some of the hurdles that we face as women with access to healthcare.
Right. I agree with you. That's very important. And coming from a background of like labor law, access to certain leaves for women, you know, access to a certain time off. And I think it's more than just legislation. I think we need to change the culture within our community, where we're understanding of the circumstances, we are understanding of the situations that women go through. We have women that have dependents that are ill, that have emergency situations, and we have to be able to support them so that they can realize their full potential. And providing leave, providing an understanding ear, a considerate, being a considerate employer, a considerate supporter is critical to being able to have them reach, you know, their full potential. So those are things that I feel the conversation needs to be had. And the more discussion that is had, you know, I'm hoping that from the discussions that are had here, there are more discussions that are had out there about providing and supporting and investing in women with the view of being able to accelerate progress. And persons have to understand that, and it's a key term to use, investing. Because when you invest, you expect a return, right? And a lot of research and studies have shown that the better benefits, the more support you provide to employees is the more output that they give. And then it increases the productivity of any organization, any home that they're part of. And so helping women helps the world, helps the country, helps the economy. You know, so we have to look at it that way.
Of course.
And if we look at it that way, we'll be moving forward in no time.
You know, and when you mention leave, and I think it's important, that we think about this holistically, and I really do look forward to getting into those conversations as well. But when I think of leave, a lot of times when people think of leave, they think of maternity leave or sick leave for women in taking time off from work to be there with their child. And I'll say this, one of the things that I am really proud of as an Anguillan is the amount of leave that we get here, maternity leave, that is afforded to us. Can it be better? Certainly. But in comparison to where a lot of other places are, I think we are in a good place with room to improve.
Yeah. But we have to start somewhere. And it's moving in a good
direction.
Yeah.
One of the areas that I look forward to touching on, though, is paternity leave.
Okay.
Because I know that it's there, but at least here in Anguilla, I know that it's there. But in certain organizations, there's a little caveat where it is, I think by law, persons in the private sector are entitled to paternity leave. And you are the expert in this area. But when it comes to, which is strange, the entity that puts in place the law and government as an employer, it is not a right. And
Is it
so,
not, though?
so I look forward,
we will
have
that discussion.
And having the persons come in and really speak to us about why paternity leave is so important. I know, and I'll give her a huge shout out here. I know Valinda Hodge, she did her dissertation on paternity leave within the civil service here in Anguilla. And so having that discussion, really looking forward to the findings of her research on that. Because paternity leave isn't just for the men. Paternity leave
provides
is a form of support for women. And so I think even moving away from the terms maternity and paternity and calling it family leave. And that support and recognizing that it is a support structure for us as women, for the development of our children. That's one of those areas that I'm excited to get into.
And you touched on a very important point, right? The paternity leave, which is something that is afforded to males or a female's partner, provides some support. And it leads into understanding that providing support for men as well can also be beneficial to helping women. Providing education, these conversations can help certain men be able to support their partner better as well. So I think, as you rightly said, you have to look at it holistically. Right? If you it's women centered, and it's about women, but it's also it's to provide support for women, and men can do that as well, right? So they can provide they can get the information, utilize what is found, and we need to talk and be able to support their mothers, their aunts, their daughters.
Their wives, their girlfriends, their partners, whatever it is.
So it's not just for us women. It's for everyone, really.
You know, when I think back to the episode with Minister Kentish Rogers, when we speak about the education aspect with men, and I think she was speaking about the home and family life education, HLFE. Never got those terms right. Nowadays we call it PSHE.
Oh, okay.
And the curriculum, and looking at that and really looking at expanding those interpersonal relationships between males and females, between boys and girls and men and women, and teaching men how to treat their women.
Right.
And how to be that support that is necessary. So I think, again, it must be a holistic view. We must look at it from every aspect. And so it's not for men to feel like, oh, but that conversation isn't for me. Because as you said, I cannot think of any man that does not have a woman in his life in one form or the other, whether it is his mother, his partner, his wife, his daughter, his sister, his aunt. There is somebody in your life that is going to be a woman that at some point in your life, you will have to provide some form of support for.
Yes.
And so
I agree.
Having these conversations, again, it is impressing upon the men in our lives that it isn't just for women. And I think you said it best. It is woman-centered, but it's not singularly for women.
Right. It's not only for women.
Yes.
It's just about women.
Yes.
And it can, in learning about women, you can improve your relationship. You can improve your career path because you may be able to relate to the women that you work with better. So there's so many opportunities in this podcast, in these topics, in these discussions.
Yes.
And I'm excited to get into it all and to do our wrap-ups as you know, we have our guests on and you know, they have these discussions on these critical and key issues. But I just wanted to ask you, you know, about your specific views on, you know, this year's International Women's Day theme. You know, investing in women, accelerating progress. How do you feel about this? What does investing in women and accelerating progress mean for you? And so share with us.
Right. So I think during this Women's Week, we had the opportunity to really explore this theme a bit, attending the Sip and Stroke.
Oh, yes. Amazing, by the way. Amazing.
That was hosted by the Honorable Minister Deanne Kentish Rogers and the Honorable Minister Quincy Gomes Marie. Two women who are out there doing exceptional things, but it was the bringing together of women from all walks of life.
Yes.
And I think that is the part that's important to me. Even as we get into why it's important to invest in women, it is also important to recognize that all women bring something of value.
Yes.
It's not just those women in the leadership positions. It's not just those women who are out here. And I think this is a term I'm going to borrow from you. The movers and shakers in society.
Yeah.
It is about all women. And so when I think of that question and when I think of the topic, what it means to invest in women to accelerate progress, at the basis of that, it is to recognize that all women have value.
Yes.
And so that when we invest in women, we're not just investing in those who society might lead us to believe have value simply by virtue of the positions or the offices that they hold.
Right.
But is recognizing, because when we invest, and if we think of investing in a financial way, you invest in something that you see or you think either holds value or has the potential to hold value.
Yes.
And so we are not going to invest in something that we don't see value in.
Right.
So
I completely agree.
that is completely the basis of any views that I may have on what it means to invest in women. It is from the starting point that all women hold value. Whether it is the custodian, the cleaner, the sex worker, all women hold value. And so from starting there, then it is about providing those support networks. It is about providing the spaces where they not only feel valued, but where they can flourish.
Right.
So investing can take several forms. We can consider what it means to invest and to be able to, from, I think, either from a larger organization or governmental standpoint, about creating the spaces and the avenues so that we can invest in small women-owned businesses and small businesses, we can consider what it means to invest in women through education. Because education is one of those powerful tools that will always move us forward. And education isn't always the formal go to university education. But it is the education in whatever it is that you need to move forward in whatever space and phase you are in your life. And then again, it is, I think, above all of that, it is the social constructs to provide that support. I don't know about you, but I can only speak for me. In order to get where I am, the investments that were made in me, those that are the most, when I think about them, the most impactful, were definitely the investments of support.
Yes, I agree.
The persons who have been able to say, hey, I need to run an idea by you. And you know, you're one of those persons. You know, we have my
for each other.
And we have my loves, and it's not just us, but it's a group of us. And I am forever and immensely grateful for that space, because it is a support. It is a space where I can be vulnerable, and I can say, I don't really think I killed it at this today.
Right.
And I can let down my guard and go, this is where I think I can be better. It is the support systems at home.
Sometimes you need persons within your life, within your circle, family, to help you challenge, you know, your inner saboteur, you know, the voice in the head that says, oh, you can't do that, or this is not going to work out, and that is going to fail. And, you know, sometimes you need help in being able to shut that voice down and say, hey, I'm going to do this. If I fail, you know, at least I know I've learned some lesson about how not to do something. You know, so
and that really is one of the topics, you know, going back to that is one of the topics that I'm looking forward to when we start to address imposter syndrome. And why so many women, more women than men, suffer from imposter syndrome. Because a lot of times we're told, you shouldn't do that. Or we have this internalized feeling that we shouldn't occupy the spaces that we are in.
It's because of scrutiny as well. The women are subjected to so much scrutiny on a regular basis that you second guess everything you do, and you want everything to be perfect, and every step to be perfect, and every hair to fall, you know, every strand of hair to fall perfectly, because you know, the minute you step out and you're being scrutinized, sometimes not for your value, sometimes not for what you contribute to progress in a particular space, but more for how you look, and you know, and that brings us to another important topic, you know, beauty, fitness. What does it mean to be healthy as a woman? You know, what unrealistic ideals, you know, when it comes to beauty and fitness and these sorts of things. So, you know, that's added pressure. There are so many things, so many spotlights, you know, that we really do need the help and the support with challenging the inner saboteur. Because it exists. It's there. And so we will naturally question ourselves because there's so many things happening.
And you know, when I think back to, again, the episode with Minister Kentish Rogers, you know, as the first Black Miss Great Britain Universe. And, you know, she spoke about breaking open certain doors. And making sure that when you pull a seat, you leave room at the table for others to also be able to pull up a chair. So that we don't get to the table and say, well, we've arrived. You know, yes, I've arrived, but I'm bringing my sis, come along. I'm bringing you with me. So for me, I think that is important, that when we think about progress and we think about how we accelerate that, we do accelerate that by, once we've gotten to a certain place, it's reaching and helping other women to get there as well, and not just closing the door and say, well, I'm here now, so that's enough.
Yeah.
And strange enough, I was watching a news article today. I think it was today that I saw, and interesting that we had her on as and going on to be in the Miss Universe pageant. That Miss Universe has now opened up and removed any age limit on women entering into any Miss Universe or Miss Universe affiliated pageants. And I think that is absolutely amazing. They go, you don't stop being amazing because you've gotten older. And
Yes.
And
yes.
that is also something I'm looking forward to exploring. Ageism.
Yes.
And what it means as a woman to...
And rediscovery of yourself and rebirth of yourself. We are entitled to that. There are some things that I couldn't eat, would not want to see the sight of or the smell of when I was a certain age. And now I love it, you know? So we have to give ourselves the opportunities. I feel as well that we don't give ourselves the opportunity to change because we feel as if we've forsaken some past self that we're tied to. So when we change, so when we say, oh, I don't like this anymore, I don't want to do this anymore, you know, we have these feelings as if we're changing, we're not true to self, and the nature of the human being is to evolve. You know, so I do think it's important to welcome and support evolution as a woman as well, so that we don't feel boxed in. We again have the opportunity to recognize our full potential. And this is for younger women as well, you know. Everyone has the opportunity, should have the opportunity to make mistakes. Learn from their mistakes.
You just hit a topic.
And then move on. Sometimes when people make mistakes at a younger age, people want to keep them in a box. They're never allowed to grow, to change, to move forward, to blossom beyond the mistake. It's almost as if they're supposed to be tied to that mistake. And their growth stymied forever because of that mistake. And some mistakes actually provide the most growth. You know? So some traumas provide the most growth. And so we have to be mindful of how, you know, we treat women. And sometimes we do these things unconsciously. You know?
You know how those traumas and certain mistakes provide growth? It is by having strong support. And it is really and that is, again, it's why I feel so strongly that support and having strong support systems, whether they're institutionalized support systems or just informal support systems. That is the best way that we can accelerate progress. Because by providing that support, you are giving persons the foundation that they need to move forward, and not just but also that little bit of a padding that even if I take a misstep, even if I do fall, there's someone there to say, hey, dust yourself off and try again. You know,
it's okay.
It's okay. It is okay to not be perfect all the time. It is okay to make a mistake. And when you're speaking about how a lot of times we box in people out, as you said, we tie people to the mistakes that they've made or one mistake that they've made, and you try to tie that to them for the rest of their life. I think back to, and especially as a young person, the pressures that exists for young people today in this age of social media, and everyone has a phone that you're willing to pull out and record.
Your mistakes have the capability of living forever. In perpetuity.
And it's those mistakes that tend to go viral. It's on Worldstar Hip Hop, it's on TMZ, it's on the Caribbean Wim Music and all of those ones. They're very quick. We are very quick as a society to pick up on those mistakes and run with it. You know, and I am thankful that in our age, we are at that precipice where the internet was just coming into, not just coming into being, but being more accessible and widespread. We came in the days of running home to MSN Messenger.
Right, right.
Where, you go home and you have to hear that dialogue tone, that tone that kids nowadays don't know anything about. But we were given grace that the entire world didn't see our mistakes.
Yes.
And so we are now in an age where we are telling young girls, hey, and not to say that it's a bad message, hey, be mindful of what you do, because your employers and your college admissions persons, they're going to see what you did in one stupid mistake as a younger person. And so it goes again into shifting the narrative where, how do you say, I get it, we're all human, for all have failed and fallen short of the glory of God. But we're all human, and we have all faltered in some way. For some of us, we are just extremely lucky that there was no camera in our face when it happened.
Very true. Very true.
It is as simple as that. And some of us, because our mistakes happen in secret, in the dark, and we figure it hasn't come to light, that it's okay to then go, well, I was smart enough to let mine be on camera.
And that's an interesting point that you raised, because sometimes some of the persons that are the most condemning, of persons that have these mistakes are persons that may have had a mistake that fortunately, didn't go viral, didn't have the opportunity to go viral because of the technology. And you would expect that they would want to be accommodating and supporting and build that person up. But sometimes, I don't know if it's an issue of us not wanting to face our own demons as well, that we crack a whip rather than support someone that's in a similar situation. And so all around, though, accelerating progress and investing in women requires support.
Yes.
And you spoke earlier about being able to help all women.
Yes.
Right? And I'm a sucker for an underdog. I cheer on every underdog team, and I love to see unsung heroes highlighted, and we have a lot in our community.
Yes, we do.
We have a lot of women that have worked 20, 30 years in an organization, in a business, in their home, accelerating progress, investing in others, and forsaking themselves.
Yes.
And I feel it's important to recognize those persons, because these people keep the machinery running. They keep the platform up for, some of us to be able to go on and do different things and do more things, So we have to recognize the persons that cleared the way. And then you spoke about Minister Deanne Kentish Rogers, who sat here, and she spoke about, her journey through Miss Universe Great Britain and how she opened the door. And literally and figuratively, heavy is the head
that wears the crown.
That wears the crown.
Yes.
And it puts a pressure and a burden on those women to have to carry it, with grace. So to ensure that the door remains open for persons to pass through and continue on, and for the world to be comfortable with women in these spaces. Whether it's women in male dominated jobs, such as construction, architecture, engineering, these sorts of things, and it takes women to take those steps. And take the challenges, take the the criticisms that come with that, to be able to create space for others to come in and realize their full potential.
Yeah, and you spoke about those unsung heroes, and for our local viewers and listeners, a few weeks back, I did a live interview with when we were looking at the demolition, jollification of the Lancer Bowl Cultural Center. And so for our non-local listeners, that is our festival space that holds a lot of history. And the history of that space really lived within the stories of the people who occupy that space. But one of those people, and just in highlighting her, I watched her that morning move around with immense emotions. She was, at one point, she was angry with Parsons. At the other point, she was crying. But she was walking around with a bunch of keys, and that's Angela. And I love to call her, I love to call her Cuz, because whenever she meet, Cuz, how you doing? But Angela is one of those persons within our community who some may consider the underdog, but a lot of things were able to happen because of her. The opening of the village at odd hours of the morning.
Yes.
To ensure that participants could practice. And whether it's the odd hours of the morning or the late hours of the night. Sacrifices
for culture, sacrifices for progress, sacrifices so, women can practice and get up on that stage and blossom, and move on to, becoming Miss
Great Britain Universe.
Yes,
It is so important again that we not just recognize, but highlight, recognize, and appreciate the sacrifices.
I completely agree.
That everyday women make. That we society sometimes tends to overlook.
Yeah.
But she does her job with such immense pride. She is custodian for the LBCC. She is a mother and custodian for all the children at Valley Primary School.
Very much so.
She is the cheerleader and supporter behind all of them. On you better run.
Yeah.
And that's where we get golden horses. And
I'm gonna challenge you because you have a very nice pink background.
Boy, we're gonna get into that banter. But really and truly, it is on the backs of women like Angela that so many others can flourish and be who they are to so many other people. And so, yes, for me, accelerating progress starts with investing in support systems, in support networks, whatever that support looks like.
Yes.
And is recognizing that support is necessary for us to get absolutely anywhere. But Shamika, I know that you have some interesting views on this as well, especially with your background, coming from labor, coming with legal background, labor laws, and what that support may look like in a workplace setting for women. I don't know if you want to speak a little bit about what that support looks like, or even your views on what investing in women looks like from that standpoint.
Okay. Yeah, so in terms of, and I spoke about this earlier, it's providing the understanding the circumstances that women go through, as an employee. We have women that have children. When the children are sick, some of them don't have care, for home care, someone to take care of an ill dependent. Some persons have mothers that are ill. Some persons have fathers that are ailing and elderly, and they have no choice but to undertake those responsibilities. So we need to ensure that we develop a culture where persons are, understanding, and employers are understanding any place that a woman is required to exist in, that she has that support, she has access to leave, she has access to compassion when it You know, compassion is very important when it comes to the circumstances that happens within her life. And you know, as I said earlier, it's not about legislation. It's not about mandating. I shouldn't have to tell you this is a woman and this needs to happen. It's about you understanding. It's about changing the culture. Education leads to, and knowledge leads to changed behavior, right? And changed behavior then in due course leads to a change in the culture. And then in due course we can see, you know, untainted, unbridled progress for women once we do that investment. And so even this podcast is investment, you know, in the progress of women, in the acceleration of women. Even this podcast, because it's starting a conversation, it's opening doors for conversations to be had, to give education, you know, and then to move on to change behaviors. And thereon to have a change in the culture where we welcome women, we provide so many support spaces that you have your pick, you know. So that is, and I think we share that view because you expressed something similar as well, that is providing those spaces for support and that compassion, so that we can have women realize their full potential at any age.
Yes. You know, as we wrap up this conversation, I'm sorry, listeners. I really hope that you are wrapped up somewhere comfortable and really taking this in, because this conversation really could go on for quite some time, because it's something that we are both very passionate.
Hours and days on end.
That we are both very passionate about. But I think just before we end, I wanted to get your take as well as on providing support through mentorship, especially in that workplace setting. So I think that's going to be like our little final bit for this
before we
really wrap up.
And what a final bit it is. Because it's one of my things that I hold dear, and that is succession planning. I feel succession planning is needed in any organization. It's needed in any home. It's needed across the board. And it's important to be able to ensure the continuity of an organization. If you ensure the continuity of an organization, you ensure the development, the progress of the economy. And so if we don't pass on education, we don't share knowledge with females that are, you know, within our circle, that females that are coming up, we don't help up. We need to help across as well, persons that would may be in a similar role, that may need that shared support, that may need that sounding board. Hey, this is what I'm facing. Have you faced anything like this? How did you handle it? We need to be able to help and support up the ladder, across the ladder, even above the ladder. You know, even above you, we need to support but as it relates to persons moving up, it's so important for us to support and undertake succession planning. You tie yourself to an organization when you store information, and the new term is gatekeep, right? Where you gatekeep information. You tie yourself to that organization, because when you have to leave or need to leave, that organization cannot move on without you. So it also
stimulates your own growth.
Yes,
when you do that.
It does stimulate your own growth, because you're not focused on progress for yourself. You're focused on being able to keep yourself within this one box, right? And that makes you lose sight of any goals, objectives that you may have ahead of you, because you're looking here and you're staying here, and you're looking backward, and you're ensuring that someone else doesn't move forward. But if you provide all the necessary tools, support, and information for someone to move forward, when you move forward, the natural progression of things is that you're going to move forward.
Everybody keeps moving.
Yes. So that's so important. That's key. You need to provide genuine support to ensure that this does happen at all levels in any organization. And So
Yeah.
I look forward to
And on that note of continuity and continuations, this has been a really good wrap up of our own take on what it means to invest in women and accelerate progress. So, and this is a wrap for this episode of We Need to Talk. We look forward to having you back next week. Be sure to follow us on all social media platforms. We are on Instagram, Facebook. Like, follow, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hopefully, sometime soon, we will be on TikTok and on all your podcasting streaming services. So until next time, be good to yourself, be good to others, stay awesome, because we need to talk.